Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Monday, September 8th, 2014 edition of Intelligence Report with Shrink4men.com and voiceformen.com. I, as usual, am Dean Esmay, Operations Manager and Managing Editor of voiceformen.com. Vaping on my delicious e-cigarette here, which I'm enthralled with. With me, as always, the thoughtful, never provocative, always mild-mannered, and completely even-tempered Dr. Tara Palmatier. Say hi, Dr. T.
Sometimes an e-cig is just an e-cig. Sometimes not.
And, of course, the most evil, horrible bastard who ever walked this earth, the notorious fedora-wearing, I guess it's not really a fedora, but we'll call it a fedora, Paul Elam, founder and publisher of A Voice for Men. Say hi, Paul.
My God, Dean, I thought for a second there you were going to introduce Dr. T twice, but...
Misogyny!
That's right. Well...
You're harassing me. Stop it.
Oh, we'll take it up on Twitter.
I'm going to sue you in Toronto, and I'm going to win.
Oh God, we should be talking about that Twitter case in Toronto, shouldn't we? Well, maybe next week, or maybe we'll squeeze it in today. So yeah, speaking of Twitter harassment, I'm actually stunned, although somewhat pleased, as a gamer, to see that the Gamergate fiasco is continuing not just to have legs, but to gain steam. We are so behind in trying to report on it that we literally, if you go look at the show notes that are in voiceformen.com, we just said, here, go look at the hashtags, because there's so goddamn many stories to look at, it's ridiculous. But one thing is very true. Most of the big name media press in gaming media is on the defensive. Even mainstream media that's covering them while they're trying to downplay what's going on and not reporting entirely accurately is admitting there seems to be a real problem here. As a lifelong nerd myself, I have to say I think these people, these social justice warriors, led first and foremost by gender ideologue feminists, have put themselves in a revenge of the nerd situation. And they've pushed the kids into the locker one too many times. And they've had enough. At least that's my read on it. What have you seen, Dr. T? I just heard you saying before showtime something about Zoe Quinn.
There's so many things to say. I don't know where to begin.
Well, I noticed that on The Escapist today, they had an exclusive on Zoe Quinn accusing the whole Not Your Shield thing of being a plot by the evil 4chan. So, in other words...
Because, of course, no one in real life could actually disagree with a feminist. People who disagree with feminism and their gender war must be imaginary, because of course nobody could take exception with their tactics of bullying and smear campaigns and doxing and oppression Olympics and damseling for dollars. Yeah, no one in real life could possibly be against that. So of course the Not Your Shield movement, of which I consider myself a part of, I game. I don't feel oppressed. I don't feel excluded. And of course they couldn't possibly be real people. But you know, I actually read over the course of 2 evenings, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Aaron Gajoni? I don't know, her ex-boyfriend.
But I saw, apologies, Aaron.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually read his Zoe post, and wow, what a rabbit hole this whole thing is. You go down one, and I don't mean in the going down a rabbit hole in the sense that Zoe's lovers have. I mean, there are just, it was fascinating. I mean, one, as a psychologist, you know, I'm reading it and I'm just like, wow, it sure seems like a lot of borderline pathology going on there to me. And perhaps she should name her next text game Dialectical Behavior Therapy Quest instead of Depression Quest. I think it would serve her better.
For
but
those
I just
who don't know, dialectical behavior therapy is the recommended course of treatment for personality disordered individuals, some of which happen to be women.
yes.
And let me go ahead and put out the disclaimer. No, Dr. Tom Palmatier is not rendering an official
on the behavior reported, it sure as heck seems like it. The smear campaign, the adopting of the victim persona, the paranoia, the splitting, using this as a source of attention, amassing negative advocates. It's all, I mean, just if you take a step back and forget about what the actual controversies are, I would say psychologically speaking, it's fascinating to watch. And then you have a group of individuals, the gaming community, who have been bullied and pushed around, who are sort of having their network news moment where they're standing up and saying, hey, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore, which I think is simply fabulous. It's the first time I have seen a community or a profession or a field of study, just a system, let's call it a system, where feminism has tried to come in, pervert it, warp it, force it to adhere to its ideology and its beliefs, and they're saying, fuck you, leave us alone. And I think it's fantastic.
I do too, and the thing is that I think the lesson in this is that if you look at what's happened in recent years to the skeptic community, what we saw was there was a couple of people, Thunderfoot, amazing atheists, that have stood up and said, you know, no to the bullshit. But by and large, in the skeptic community, the men in that community kowtowed and bent over and knelt and became obsequious and started parroting the social justice / feminist line on everything. And the people like P.Z. Myers ended up ruling the day there. And the skeptic community has been, I think, all but destroyed in terms of it being a movement because of that, because of the co-option. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with the gaming community, to see if there will finally be a historical example, because every other movement that feminism has sought to co-opt has surrendered itself.
Including the gay movement, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, every last one.
The Black Rights Movement, co-opted by privileged white women who want the attention to be about them.
Absolutely.
And that's the harsh truth.
One of the most hilarious quotes I read, and I think it was from the journalist Jen, who just left her position. I can't remember, but apparently before Gamergate broke, she wrote an article claiming that the actual games, I'm going to paraphrase here, the games themselves don't matter. What matters are the politics of games. It's like, excuse me? Excuse me? The games themselves don't matter. It's the political ideology represented in the games. Does this person even play games?
Toy guns don't kill. Toy gun killers kill. Even today I see that they're backpedaling, but they're doing it slowly. For example, I see there's this exclusive in The Escapist today with Zoe Quinn trying to prove that Not Your Shield, which is another great hashtag of women, people of color, people who've been sexually abused, people who are, not heterosexual, any of that, all of them saying in unison, no, you don't speak to me. Yeah, for me, yes, even feminists saying, no, you don't speak for me, and stop using me as your shield. And I think this is something. It's a boil that started. An infection that started, I'm going to say it flat out, by Anita Sarkeesian, and more to the point, by Anita Sarkeesian's enablers. Mostly male enablers, I will say, although she had plenty of female enablers too, but mostly male enablers who made it verboten in the gaming press anywhere to take issue
with some of her questionable assertions. It's, and I think this gets down to something that we like to call gynocentrism, which is a big word, but it's men who are afraid of offending women, and men who think that protecting women, either consciously or unconsciously, think that's their job, is to defend women, and therefore, in a very dysfunctional way, let women get away with almost anything. Sometimes, I mean, not in Anita's case, but sometimes literally all the way up to murder. Anita Sarkeesian has lied and 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 been caught over and over and over again. And has any one of the gaming journals put up any of the well-done videos by Dr. Phil Mason, a.k.a. Thunderfoot, taking her apart? No. It's like he doesn't exist. Yeah, you mentioned the amazing atheist, although, you know, he's done some pretty good takedowns, very reasonable ones, too. There's a whole, I mean, Mundane Matt and the Internet Aristocrat, and actually, you know, dozens of YouTubers, male and female alike, have over 2 years now consistently said, there's a problem here with what this woman is saying, and there's a problem with what she's doing, and you're not allowing discussion of it, you're banning discussion of it. One gaming journal, I don't even remember which one, the guy actually had the balls, this was within the last month, to actually say, argue whatever you want, but don't criticize the women.
I read that. That was at Slate or Salon, one of the two. Might have been Slate.
Well, but it was a gaming journal editorial originally, I believe, but he was serious. Like, yeah. Wait a minute. Okay, well, I mean, okay, everybody in here, I mean, fair disclosure, none of us, most of us here, everybody in this room is no longer considers themselves feminists. That's pure, and Paul and I both used to consider ourselves feminists. We don't anymore. I can never remember if Dr. T really considered herself one or not, ever. But we gave it up one way or the other because we see it's not about women's rights. It's an ideology. And it's a gynocentric ideology that essentially infantilizes women. It leads people to excuse horrendous behavior by women. The top offender to date has been Anita Sarkeesian, who has gotten away with all kinds of shenanigans and outright lies, and nobody's called her on it.
Well, people do call her on it, and then they're silenced because they're ridiculed. They're labeled misogynists. They're labeled rape apologists. They're labeled misogynerds, neckbeards, and they get pelted with ad hominem attacks, and they are silenced. And what these social justice warriors, including Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, do is they are human projection machines. They accuse others of doing what they themselves are doing. They are like Darvo to the 100th power. They deny and reverse the victim and offender positions. These people are the offenders. They are the bullies. They are the ones who have gone after people, harassed them online, created sock puppet accounts, doxed them, got them fired. They're the assholes in this scenario, yet they're playing victim like nobody's business. It's really just repulsive. And these guys who are defending them, you know, this is one of the things when I'm not entirely sympathetic to Aaron Gajani, first of all. He was, you know, talking about the love-bombing, halcyon days of his romance with Zoe, and he was like, ooh, cool alternate chick with colored hair and a social justice warrior's heart. I'm sorry, guys. You're into social warrior justice chicks, that's like saying you get sexual pleasure from shoving your penis in a paper shredder. What the hell is wrong with you?
And there's the thing, too.
Yes, Paul?
Yes, I'm not going to rescue you from that one. She did say, by the way, that was like shoving your penis in a paper shredder, which I think is cruel to the paper shredder, but that's another topic entirely. I think it's also really important to remember here that when we're talking about people like Zoe Quinn, we're talking about people that have literally crawled to the middle on their knees to get support for their efforts to silence, because now we have that are censoring people, that are telling their own bread and butter to shut the fuck up and mind their own business, while these social justice warriors take a dump all over them and their culture and their interests. And the fact is now that Quinn is doing the same thing. She's going around creating an opportunity to quote mine, then she's grabbing up the quotes and saying, see here, this is proof that Gamergate's not real, that Not Your Shield is a bunch of 4chaners that are upset and hate women. Guess what? It's not going to work. That shit in that community, I think feminists have finally found a community that would not be co-opted, and it looks good on it.
The fact of the matter is, it's trying to change the subject. Let's pretend it's true, Zoe, and escapist, and all of you who thinks this matters. What if 4chan created Not Your Shield specifically for the purposes of embarrassing these ideological thug feminists? And so what? It caught on. You know why? It caught on because it spoke to a whole lot of people who resented. Let's not even forget. I mean, we keep, you know, let's not forget. This is even in the case of Zoe Quinn. She did not hesitate to crush a community of people trying to recover from depression, and she did not hesitate to attempt to crush a group of her fellow feminists who got in her way.
Who were competitors.
Yeah, because they were competitors. Well, they have to be ruthlessly destroyed. The fine young capitalists. They actually are feminists who were just trying to do something good, and she shit on them and tried to hurt them. And she's still, and what do you expect? You think you can beat 4chan? If 4chan creates a meme and it doesn't ring a bell with people, or strike a chord with people, it doesn't go anywhere. So the fact of the matter is, changing the subject to 4chan and in some shot log, somebody said cunt. Oh, somebody said bitch. Well, this just proves everything. There's no validity here. I'm sorry. Christ almighty, what was George Carlin's famous line? The 7 dirty words you can't say on television. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. Okay, I just said all those words, so now you can ignore everything I have to say, right?
But again, she's a hypocrite. She's engaged in some really vile name-calling herself, but it only counts when other people are doing it to her. So she is a hypocrite of the highest order. She is a two-bit con artist, in my opinion.
And that's, I think that speaks back to what Dean was saying about gynocentrism and where the actual lesson is here. Because if there's no lesson in this whole affair, then it's pretty worthless. It's just a bunch of shit stirring that's going to end up in nothing. And I hope that there is people in the gaming community, which I do not belong to. This is, you know, Zoe Quinn specifically is not my issue. Certainly feminism is an issue that I'm invested in, but it is another community different than mine. But what I hope some people can take away from it is just to take a look at what's happened in your community. Because Zoe Quinn is a woman, she has been able to come in and lie and cheat and twist and demonize other women and to do anything, and the moment you speak about it, somebody says, don't criticize the women. That is a pussy shield that she is wearing everywhere she goes, saying, I'm beyond reproach because I have a vagina. And largely, especially the people she's been using her vagina on, have sided with her and supported her in silencing even their own clientele. The people.
Well, let's face it, most of the people who are covering for her and supporting her have used her pussy for multiple purposes.
Yes, absolutely. She does have a multi-use vagina, and I'll give her credit for one thing. She, you know, they say
her vagina is multitasking. Like
yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
And it doesn't discriminate, men or women. She doesn't care, apparently, and that's fine too.
Well, you know, any breast in a storm.
And always here's the other hypocrisy that gets to me. They will sit there and say, we're not going to publish this because this is personal, private information about somebody. Oh. And we can't prove this has been published. Yet the entire gaming community, all the mainstream gaming journals, were happy to cover a guy who was in game development. He called it Cards for, oh God, I'm so sorry, I forget. Anyway, he got accused of rape, and they all were happy to cover that with no proof whatsoever.
Oh,
that's not too personal. That's not too personal, but saying that Zoe Quinn has a habit of sleeping with her boss and sleeping with people who give her good press, why that we can't touch. One of these gaming journals even had the balls to say these allegations all turn out to be unsubstantiated. What? I'm sorry, once again, okay, people I'm naming do not consider themselves MRAs. They don't. They don't like us. Well, Some of them are neutral on us. Some are even hostile to us. I don't care. Go look at what the Internet Aristocrat and Mundane Man have put together. Go look at what Short Fat Otaku, who has put together with Camera Girl, Short Fat Otaku's videos that he's made with Camera Girl and some others. They're awesome. Camera Girl's even a feminist, but of course she has to be silenced because she's female. She's a feminist. She's Asian, and she says, "I'm not your shield." They called her a dude and shut her down. We say social justice warriors a lot, but I think it ultimately does get back to feminists have a habit of being basically very privileged women who've been handed almost everything in life, demanding to be included in every other field of oppression there is. So, of course, the gay rights struggle is the same as feminism because it was gay men mostly who were getting lynched, beat to death, stabbed, arrested, lobotomized, but women's struggle needed to go be in with that too. White women's struggle especially. Black people were going through hell.
I am an educated white woman, middle class, and I am oppressed. I am the most oppressed class person on the planet because I have a vagina and I am white and I am educated. And if you don't agree with me, you're a hateful misogynist, and if you keep disagreeing with me, I'm going to file criminal harassment charges against you.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Well, I mildly disagree with you, Tara, but that's all I'm going to say about it.
Don't worry, I won't pull the Stephanie Guthrie on you. But no, Dean, you're absolutely right. This is it's like you got to give them for consistency. It's the same. They right out of the same playbook.
Yep, and let me say this too. You know, with all respect to the gaming community, and I know there's a lot of people in that community that strongly disagree with men's rights activists. All I can say is you might want to look around behind you and notice who has that 14-inch strap on that's going up your ass right now. It happens to be the same general people that we have been speaking about and against for many years here.
And don't fail to notice. I hate to interrupt, Paul, but seriously, don't fail to notice. Even though I am one, okay, in some ways, because I'm fat and I have a beard and I got whatever, but they say the same shit about us they say about you guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm a gamer, by the way. I am a gamer and always have been. Fat, loser, neckbeard, living in his mother's basement, misogynist, hates women, white guy who just wants his privilege cookies. That they say the same exact thing, word for word by rote. There's not a damn bit of difference.
And the same thing for me and other female men's rights activists. We get the same accusations leveled against us that the not your shield individuals do. We have internalized sexism, internalized misogyny. I'm really a man. We're just courting male attention and favor. Very demeaning to us, as if we don't know our own minds. I'm nobody's victim, and I'm not going to let somebody impose victim status upon me just to further their political, ideological agenda.
And you were actually one better than just a man. At one point, Tara, before you started coming on doing live videos, you were actually me.
I know.
Because
I want my hat back, damn it.
Karen Strong, Girl Writes What, one of the biggest YouTubers who talks about gender issues alive, started for the sole reason that she got sick of being called a man on Reddit. Yep. And there's a bisexual housewife who writes porn for a living, but no, she's just obviously some Christian-y, religious thug guy who's just mad at his ex-wife, right? Whatever. I get the same bullshit. I remember when T-Bog, that asshole, that idiot who writes for, what is it, The Raw Story? I can't even remember. He's too stupid, but he said something about how I'm just a bitter guy who doesn't like his ex-wife, and then my ex-wife pointed out, no, I support what he does, because she does. Oops. Because we have sons, and my ex-wife supports what I do here. Oh, and we get along. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, in fact, I was just over at her house and we were talking about Breaking Bad. Great show, by the way.
It was sort of like all the hubbub over Spider-Man's or Spider-Woman's ass.
No shit.
That was funny.
We should just go ahead and throw that in. Did you see that one, Dr. T?
No, there's only so much crazy I could ingest in any week's worth of internet browsing.
Basically, Elle magazine. Elle magazine. Think about the hypocrisy of this, and I think it is gynocentrism because I got another theory on this. Elle magazine had a piece objecting to the cover of a new issue of Spider-Woman. Now, Spider-Woman is not as well known, but she's actually been around at least since the 70s, and they've got her in a pose, crawling down, or maybe it's over a window. Basically, her ass is in the air, and her ass is very prominent, and she's in what you could call a sexual presentation position. And Elle magazine attacks that.
And I'm guessing at some point Elle has had Kim Kardashian or somebody of her ilk on the cover, correct?
And they had the double audacity on it. Audacity number one was for Elle magazine itself, which, if you look at look at how many nude and semi-nude women are in every fucking issue, not to mention every other cover. Not that I look at Elle that obsessively, but years ago, Andy Dick did a video spoof. You can probably still find it on YouTube. Andy Dick is a comedian. And he did a comedy video where he was I don't want to get into politics, but he was a speechwriter. He was playing a speechwriter for George W. Bush. And he's like, okay, I'm going to write a speech. What are the words? Family values. Just what all of like the hot button buzzwords were, and he was just like picking up sheets of paper off of his bed and throwing them against a sticky board. And I have to wonder sometimes if these publications are like, oh, this is a hot word. It's about the clickbait, right? Mm-hmm. It's about getting people to click on the page or buy your crappy magazine. Well, it has to be because Maddox, who runs the best page in the universe, that's actually what he calls it, but. He was the one who came out and said, because Elle had I think it was Elle, gosh, I hope I'm not getting the wrong publication, but I don't think so. Anyway, it was a women's fashion magazine. They also had the audacity to say no one would ever do a cover of Spider-Man in this pose. That, boom, Maddox is like, here's one of the most famous Spider-Man covers of all. There he is in the exact same pose, which you could also call, it's the exact same fucking pose.
It is.
His ass in the air and everything.
His ass is a little smaller, but
only a little.
Yeah, but it is the exact same pose, and of course that was a big whoops moment. When you said whoops, that reminded me. Again, they just come out thoughtlessly with anything. Well, nobody would ever put Spider-Man in this pose. Well, where do you think they got the artistic idea?
See, you just can't make them happy. There's just no winning, because I'm guessing that the butt was rather big on the Spider-Woman.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so well then that's good, right? Because they're tired of seeing women beauty depicted as thin and white. So they gave Spider-Woman a booty, but you can't win.
A big red booty that should have fit their diversity model.
It should have. When you figure, yes, you have to think some of it is clickbait. You really do think it has to be. Let's just piss some people off. The problem is there's only so far you can press that line before you start pissing people off too much and they start walking away.
Well, when you start attacking your consumers, that's just not that they haven't done it before. Not that other industries haven't done it before, but I think they crossed a line that I don't know that they can retreat from.
I want to say for all, we've got, there's really busy right now. We've got a lot of comments coming. There's a lot of live viewers on this. I suspect that some of those viewers will be from the gaming community that have maybe not been exposed to this dialogue before or who were turned off by it in the past. I don't know. But I do want to point out, for the purposes of just understanding this conversation a little better, when we talk about gynocentrism, what we are talking about is basically a women first at any cost philosophy, and at any cost is the operative term that makes all the difference in the world. It isn't about pulling a woman away from a situation where she's being raped or preventing a crime against her directly. We're talking about that in word and deed and even in the games you play, that the sensibilities purportedly of women must be taken into account first, so that I guess now they want an equal number of people killed. Well, actually, what they did was they went through the almost unending male-on-male carnage of video games with virtual male-on-male carnage. Let's get that straight. We are talking about a fantasy world. And picked out a few women that got knocked around, which Anita Sarkeesian did in one of her videos, which Thunderfoot pointed out that you lose points. There is disincentive for going after those women. But she pulled that out and used it as an example of the misogynistic trends in the video games and in the video game community. This trend is gynocentric. This tendency for social justice warriors to come in and tell you that your culture is wrong, that your culture is bad, that the games you play are wrong, that everything you take interest in is wrong and it's hateful and it's terrible, is all about putting women first on steroids. That's what it's about. And
then it ironically winds up being the women who are the loudest and crankiest and most obnoxious.
Absolutely.
And therefore not really representative of most women, because they aren't.
They are making money off of triggering your tendency to protect women and to sympathize with women's issues by going in and throwing around these buzzwords: misogyny, woman-hating, violence against women, rape culture, things like that. They're throwing all that in there to trigger your instinct to protect women and to defend women's issues, and using it to make a buck off you while destroying your pastime in the process, and they don't care about that. So I hope the Not Your Shield campaign continues with full vigor, and I hope it catches fire and gets even more people involved, because this is just one more round of bullshit from people who destroy.
And here's for me just some of the biggest BS in all of this. So, the gynocentric crowd, the social justice warriors, the feminists, I suppose there are differences, but let's just put them all in one bucket for now. It's women first, women's sensibilities first, women's interests first, at the expense of your own interests. And they're deciding unilaterally, and last time I know they didn't check with me, and I am a woman, whether they choose to believe that or not. They don't speak for all women, first of all. And who are they to come in and say you must put women you don't even know above your own personal interests? That is the height of selfishness and self-interest. And frankly, I play video games, and last time I checked, most of the characters and creatures I kill are men. And for me, I don't discriminate. If you're in between me and my quest point or a chest that I want to loot, you're going to get hacked up.
Yeah, there you go.
You're good.
Fallout 3, the Fallout series may be the only series I've seen that's an exception to that. But yeah, I mean, and I am a gamer. Tara sort of considers herself a gamer. She'll admit she loves Skyrim if you make her. But
among other things, and I was going to wear my Crows Before Hoes T-shirt today, but I chickened out.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I wasn't anything.
Big Game of Thrones nerd. But anyway, it's like this. I know that there are people in Gamergate who are saying, "Oh God, here come the MRAs. We don't want those people. They're going to discredit us." No,
actually,
we're not.
We're already in your ranks, whether you know it or not.
That's right, and they've been wanting to silence us from day one. You don't. Actually, I say it to people all the time. You don't have to be an MRA. I'm not going to play the feminist game and say you have to be an MRA. You have to think like we think. You have to be one of us, or you're a bigot. No, it doesn't work that way. Specialize in men's issues, but we're not one-dimensional. Thank you.
I love the people that like to get into the you guys are just like feminists. Let me just point out, and I'll leave it at that. When's the last time you read an MRA article talking about the disproportionate amount of male virtual death in video games as misandry? You don't hear that stuff. Why? Because we don't subscribe to victim politics. It's a game. And now they're trying to screw it up for you And now I would venture to say that there's many in the gaming community that are saying, well, maybe this is a problem. It always ends up that way when it falls in your lap.
I actually do think there's room for this kind of, well, do we glorify male disposability a little too much in our popular entertainment? But you know what? That's for a rational discussion between adults, not for fulminating and angrily demanding that it be changed.
And not for bullying for money.
That's right. Not for bullying for money. That's right. And doing your best to silence people and shame people. Here's another thing I hope gamers pick up on and notice this observation. And this is, I think, a very important observation that you need to internalize, because the truth of the matter is, I believe men instinctively love women. It's really hard for a man to hate women, and that's a real truth about most men. And if it weren't that way, the accusation of misogyny wouldn't sting. It wouldn't bother you. It wouldn't make you angry. It wouldn't hurt you. It wouldn't make you defensive. If you were a misogynist, you'd say, you're fucking right, I hate those bitches, get them the fuck out of here, I hate women. A real misogynist wouldn't care if you called them a misogynist. The misogyny label only stings because most men are not misogynists.
And by the way, criticizing women who are deserving of criticism, like lying because they've lied, they've used bribery, they've exchanged sexual favors for career advancement, criticizing a woman for bullying and shutting down a charity that was in competition with her own for-profit endeavor is not misogyny. Because if a man did those same exact things, we'd all be criticizing him, and no one would be crying, that's misandry. No, we wouldn't. So criticizing anyone whose behaviors warrant criticism is not a form of hatred.
In fact, if feminism were true to its stated values, which most of us believe it tends not to be, but you know, there are exceptions, I guess. But the point is, you know what's disrespectful toward women? Giving them a free pass when they're assholes.
Yep.
That's not respecting them, because that's treating them like they are. That's treating them not even like you treat children.
That's like, right. You'd put a kid in a timeout, and right now somebody should put Zoe in a timeout and keep her away from social media.
And you put kids in timeouts for a reason, because you don't want a child to grow up out of control and abusive with everybody they encounter. That's the reason that you control their behavior and you issue them consequences, because they're instructed on how for them to operate in the world around them and how to interact with people. If they're abusive, violent, you find some way to intervene on that and make them experience that pain. But we've got to the point now that even if we just say, look, you know, Zoe Quinn went around fucking people for financial gain, and has turned around and trashed other women trying to develop real games, not depression quest, but actual real games, then somebody objecting to that and saying it's because you're misogynist. Let me tell you something. Misogynists in general, the few real ones that I ever encountered, I truly believe were made and not born. If you train somebody that every time that they say, you know, I think what that woman did, what do you mean what that woman did? Don't you ever talk about women that way. When some guys live in a culture that reacts to them like this, they end up with hatred. Not excusing them, not saying that they're right, but I'm saying that infantilizing women and making whatever their whims are rule people's day like this will inspire resentment and reaction. And if you can't figure that out, I'm sorry, you just can't figure that out. I see Dean has a comment here he wants to post. Let's move to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments pouring in. I'm sorry we're not getting to everybody, but this one caught my eye, and I think it's worth mentioning. Dean, you asked last week for someone to create social justice warrior free zones. Here are some gaming sites that are not infected with social justice warriors. Dual Shockers, P4R Gaming, Gamatsu, Silicon Era, Evil Avatar, Other Your Party, okay. awesome. I will take your word for it, Raging Golden Eagle. I happen to know that the guys at Tales from the Infrared, a radio show I do, are looking into starting their own site. I think that the gaming community either needs to get the politics out of it, or the politics of if they are going to be talking political stuff in gaming, they need to be marking it off in a different section where we're going to argue politics, and every point of view gets heard. That doesn't. Feminist views get heard. Men's rights views get heard. People who say you're both full of shit get heard. Republicans get heard. Democrats get heard. Christians get heard. Atheists get heard. You're going to talk politics. You're going to put it where you let people say what they want to say within reasonable bounds of discourse. And you are not respecting women if you say feminism is Jesus and you can't be mean to Jesus. Feminists are allowed to be criticized. Christians are allowed to be criticized. Whatever. Criticism is okay. And this tendency to treat feminism like this holy of holies that you cannot touch, well, it needs to end.
It's absolutely insane, and I'm glad that he put up that list of forums and sites, because I think it's also important to reward people that set up environments that are free, that people that game can come in and expect not to be shit on by the people running the place, and not to be silenced, and not to be told they're crazy because they object to corruption, which is exactly what's going on in all these other more prominent forums right now.
Yeah, and you know, I would like to not talk about Zoe Quinn, because Zoe Quinn undoubtedly loves the attention, good attention, negative tension. She's going to work it and milk it either way. She'll be on her own damseling for dollars tour right alongside Rebecca Watson and Sarkeesian. Just give her time. I want to talk about who really has the power here and who has enabled much of this, and this would be the gaming journalists. They are covering it up, and I've noticed that many of them have basically pulled a Monica Hess from the Washington Post, who doesn't really care about the issues, but doesn't like her profession being maligned. You know, again, this is fair criticism that is happening right now for the gaming journalism, and it's hard to even use that word. I think it's more likely the glorified gaming blogger. Advertised. I mean, they're all opinion pieces. There have been actually the most unbiased accounting of what has happened thus far. I read it on Al Jazeera last week.
Now, I'll tell you who. Well, of course, I'm biased. But Vincent James has started a series on a place for men, and it's awesome.
It's really good.
Great stuff being put together by people like Mundane Matt, Internet Aristocrat, and he's putting in text form for people to read. So look for Vincent James's stuff on our site. You don't have to be an MRA. He's doing a really good job of just laying out the facts. On the other hand, of course he's biased. So are we. We're open about it. We're not hiding it. But
well, we're biased, but we're not into lying, Dean. We're not going to lie. We're not going to ignore facts because it's convenient.
That's right, and if there's an error, we'll correct it.
Yep. And we won't correct it by telling our readers they're full of shit.
Yeah, no kidding. I'll even say this to the publishers. How stupid can you be? You can even clickbait and do it properly and not shit on your audience. Yeah. I remember one of the... This was in the computing press. The guy's name was Dvorak. I can't remember his first name, which is bothering me. But for years, this guy Dvorak was writing a column. He wrote in a Mac journal. He had a column in the Mac journal where every issue he would say something negative about the Macintosh computer and what Apple was doing lately. And Mac users hated him and his column. And then he had a column in a PC journal where he would do nothing but praise everything that Apple was up to and talk about how Microsoft sucked. Okay, now he was clearly doing that on purpose, but that's what I would call clever clickbaiting. And it wasn't a whole PC journal talking about why PC sucked, and it wasn't a whole Mac journal talking about why Macs sucked. He was creating a dialogue, and he was being controversial on purpose, but people would rate him, and they would even love to hate him. Okay, that's fine. This mass censorship stuff and mass shaming across the board and hiding, that's not how you gin up controversy. It's just stupid. It's just stupid.
Stupid it is.
I think the gaming media is in trouble. Some advertisers are pulling out. I see some of the people in gaming journalism are retreating to a hashtag called game ethics. That's not going to work because they're still not just openly admitted, what did we do? We suppressed the opinions of thousands of people, and we shit on thousands of people. We shit on our own base, our own bread and butter, and we enabled lying psychopaths and gave them a free pass because they were women. That's
well, and mainly because they gave us blow. Sold out our audience.
They what?
We sold out our audience so we could get a blowjob. That's what it boils down to.
So anyway, yeah. Oh, and Uncle Rusty mentions this. I like that. The Honey Badger Radio Facebook page threw out a list of sites to avoid because of their trashy input in the situation. I'd recommend people check that out and take it for what they will. Yeah, Honey Badger Brigade, Honey Badger Radio, good Facebook page, good website too. Women, all who are very critical of feminism, and they're not all about games, but they're all pretty cool too. They're friends with us. So anyway, I think I'm gamergated out. What else did we want to talk about this week? Although I'm sure, by the way, keep watching those hashtags. I'm in there every day, and I can't believe how every day something new comes out. It's just amazing. Well, there's no point in linking stories. Just go hit those hashtags. But anyway.
I think
we were...
Zoe Quinn's going to watch this and say, well, I really hate this, but at least they're talking about me.
Well, and I must be right because the Voice for Men had something. Be right. I must be right. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so wasn't there some piece in the Examiner you wanted to talk about, Dr. T?
Well, I think we only have about 10 minutes left.
Campus sexual assault hysteria for college men.
Yeah, another great hashtag, date off campus.
Mm-hmm.
Sisters are doing it to themselves.
It says.
Yes. What that piece is about, folks, by the way, is that for some crazy reason, likely having to do with rape culture hysteria being that has just done a tsunami in our academic environment and wiped out all sense of reason and rationality with beefed up statistics, cooked books about how often the incidence of rape is, who the victims are, and most importantly, what the source of rapes are, according to the same social justice warriors that are now acting like an infection in the gaming community. They are pushing the information that rape is a cultural factor and that rape is rampant on college cultures because we live on college campuses because we live in a culture that supports and condones rape. Now, RAINN, the R-A-I-N-N, the largest sexual abuse advocacy group, I believe in the world, certainly in the United States, has come out and said very straightly, no, there is no such thing as rape culture. It is not a cultural factor. It is a small group of criminals doing a lot of crime, which makes sense and which I totally believe. Even though RAINN still does not focus like they should on the fact that men are also victims of sexual assault, and it is a big unaddressed problem. But the Washington Examiner reported that now young men are starting to say, you know what, I'm not going to go out with anybody on campus, or a girl showed interest in me, but I was afraid because I don't want to end up sacrificing my academic career because an accusation of an assault is made. They are so out of control with this stuff, with the control on college campuses, that even the young men at the most hormonal, woman-crazy time in their lives are starting to look at this and say, you know what, I'm going to hashtag date off campus. And they're very smart to do that. It doesn't mean that they could never have problems, but at least if you don't date a girl at your school, if you go somewhere else, whoever else you date can't go to your school and use their trumped up tribunal process to have your education terminated.
Yet.
Which is happening to a lot of men. Yet. And who knows what they may come up with. But for right now, if you date off campus, she can't go running to the dean's office and say there was a sexual assault 2 years ago, and they will come after you for that. We've had a lot of guys. There's well over 30 young men now suing their colleges for violation of due process by convicting them of sexual assault offenses with no proof whatsoever and kicking them out of school. We need a lot more of those lawsuits, but I will agree that we do need to date off campus.
The fact of the matter is that that the world, the United States, Canada, and a few other places are being sold a phony line about rape on campuses. You're hearing these stupid lies, and they are lies. They're flat out bullshit. That 1 in 5 women, 1 in 4 women. I even saw somebody dare with the audacity to claim 1 in 3 college women get raped on campus. It's garbage. It's garbage. Okay? And if it were true,
as if Daddy and Mommy would send Princess Snowflake to college if there was a 1 in 3 chance of her being sexually assaulted. Give me a break.
I mean, at some point your critical faculties need to kick in, and you need to ask where that comes from. And if you don't want to believe it from me, there's all sorts of sources we could point you to. It's garbage. If you use the same methodologies they use to define rape, college women are raping men at very nearly the same rate as college men are raping women. And but of course they don't mention that. What does that mean? There's something fucked about their statistics, because they're playing games like if a man and a woman are both drinking, the man is a rapist. Period. And the woman is a rape victim. Period. And they're playing all kinds of unwanted sexual contact. That means, lady, that if you're at a party and you're making out with a guy and he grabs your boob and you take his hand away and say, "I'm not ready for that," you're a victim of sexual assault. That's how they get that stupid 1 in 5 figure. That's how they get it.
And that's how they get the 1 in 4 figure and the 1 in 3 figure and all the other conflicting figures that they come up with. What they don't get it from is actual sexual assaults.
Mm-hmm. 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 And they're putting guys out of college over these things.
If you don't want to believe that because an MRA said it, which some people are prone to say, well, an MRA said it, it's not true. Go to fire.org. And that. They're not MRAs. They have no relationship with us whatsoever. Zero. Zip. They are strictly an educational.
That's right.
Concerned with what's happening in our schools. Go read them.
In fact, some of our MRA buddies don't like her because she calls herself a feminist. But go look at what Dr. Christina Hoff Sommers has written on these things. This is rape hysteria. It puts women in fear. It makes men demons. And it generates cash for the people selling this phony narrative.
Two big byproducts, cash and mistrust.
Yep, exactly. And power. They get power from it. It's the whole Anita Sarkeesian, Zoe Quinn, all that bullshit is a microcosm of what we're talking about, is what's going on college campuses right now. You think you as a gamer under assault, don't be a man on a college campus, a young man on a college campus today. Go in there and get your lecture on how women fear you, and while women get their lecture on what to do, are told that rape is a constant threat looming over their heads. Like, you can't walk down to the quad or whatever without some guy with a giant erection ready to jump out and tear you apart. It's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous fear-mongering, and it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. Sorry.
Don't ever speak bad about the women.
Yeah, don't speak bad about the women. Never criticize a woman unless she's
really important. It doesn't matter if we end academic careers prematurely on lies. It's important that we don't offend women, no matter what. And it doesn't even matter if we're not really offending women, if we're just offending social justice warriors who happen to have...
Let's get real. Let's get real. Some of the things that the feminists on college campuses and the feminist ideologues and who are the social justice warriors in gaming, what they take offense to, most normal human beings wouldn't even blink twice at. Oh, a man I wasn't interested in asked me out for coffee. Rape culture, he's rapey. It's like, did he flash his penis at you? No. Did he call you names? Did he say, I'll buy you a Starbucks for a blowjob? No. What did he say? He said, I'd like to take you out for coffee sometime. It's like, you know what? That isn't a cause to be offended, even if you don't find the guy particularly attractive. Be a grown-up and say no thank you. But these are the kinds of things that these nutbags want to make into hate crimes. It's completely insane. They're completely insane. They're completely insane. I think they have deep-rooted psychological issues and hate men who, who knows what happened. Their mother taught them to. Maybe they had an abusive father. I don't know. But they're trying to enforce their extremist unreality onto the rest of the population. And it's horrific. They take, like I said, they take offense over things that I think most people wouldn't even, the needle on the outrageometer wouldn't even move a millimeter.
Right.
They are offended and outraged by everything.
And let somebody object and say that they're being unreasonable, and the outrage goes up 50 more notches. And they're pretending that they are representing womankind, which they aren't, and then they get these men who think they are defending women or womankind because they're defending those particular women. It's a psychology.
They're defending a bunch of hateful hysterics, is what they're defending.
Yeah, quite frequently. And we get accused sometimes of saying it's everything in society is women's fault. No.
Even
all
though
of this dysfunction we're talking about is men just as much as women, men enabling this dysfunctional behavior. And other women enabling
this behavior. Because I believe most women think that this is just completely nuts too. But a lot of women don't say anything.
Well, because they don't want to get bullied, because, by the way, women are experts at relational aggression bullying, and a lot of women don't want to get bullied.
And a lot of women don't want to hear that, but guess what? It's true.
It is true. But at least the gamer chicks are figuring it out. No, I ain't going to get bullied. Fuck you. At least the ones who are on the Gamergate side. Fuck you. You're not bullying me. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and you can't shut me up, and you don't speak for me. Rage on, girls. Really, seriously. Ladies, whatever you want. More women need to speak out, because these feminists, these social justice warriors, do not represent the majority of women. Feminists don't represent the majority of women. And if you doubt it, go look at the survey. The Huffington Post themselves, Huffington Post, which is like Feminist Central, Huffington Post did a poll where they were aghast to find out that only 20% of all Americans, less than a quarter of women, considered themselves feminists. And they tried to spin it by saying, well, yes, but they do believe in equality. And you know what? That is really like saying, well, only 5% of Americans identify as socialists, but most Americans agree we should have public schools and public roads, so most Americans are socialists. No, it doesn't work that way. The fact is, feminism doesn't represent most women. It doesn't. And we shouldn't be afraid to say so. And social justice warriors don't represent the people they claim to represent. They just don't.
In reality, feminism doesn't represent any women. It represents a set of interests and financial opportunity for a group of men and women. I mean, there's no shortage of feminist men. People like Michael Kimmel, who just got $300,000 in grant money from the Ford Foundation so that he could stack a men's studies group with Gloria Steinem and Carol Gilligan. This is what we're looking at in this group. So it isn't about women or men. It's like everything else. Follow the money, or in Gamergate, follow the vagina, and you will find the source of the problem. And for people that think that's an insult to women, it's not. Zoe Quinn is an insult to women. Look at what she does, and then tell me she's not. Anyway, that's it.
I think that's going to have to be it for us tonight. This week, we got a metric ass ton of really good comments, and we hardly got to any of them. But I'm going to call out. There's so many good comments. People after this video is over should go read them. Plenty of people making some really good and thoughtful points there. Oh my God, Jimmy Carter. Well, never mind. Go look for the Jimmy Carter one.
And I
Go ahead.
No, it just people people in the gaming community do what you want to do what you feel you need to do what you believe is right, but criticize Zoe Quinn. She deserves it. However, if you really, really, really want to get to Zoe Quinn, ignore her. Just ignore her. Ignore her. It is the worst thing. I mean, like I said, she's deserving of criticism, but at this point, she's just building her professional victim resume to go damseling for dollars. And if she is indeed somebody who suffers or from borderline personality disorder or more aptly causes anyone who gets close to her to suffer from her disorder, the worst thing you can do to her is ignore her. And Sarkeesian, don't give them your money. Don't give them your time. Don't give them your attention. And vote with your consumer dollars.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to call that final thoughts from Tara, from Dr. T. Paul, any final closing thoughts?
Yes, I just hope the gaming community pushes on. Play the fucking games you want to play the way you want to play them. And when people try to coerce you, you know what to do. I mean, this obviously is a community that knows how to respond to coercion. So I'm just going to have fun watching this. Again, I've got a PlayStation, but it has dust on it. I don't game, but I am enjoying watching this community become maybe the first on record that will stop these asshats in their tracks coming in trying to take over a culture. It'll be a first, and it'll be fun to watch.
Follow the Gamergate hashtag on Twitter. Even if you don't have a Twitter account, you can watch it. There'll be links there on the show notes to this on A Voice for Men. In any case, if you're in an abusive relationship with a woman or think you might be, please visit shrink4men.com. That's shrink, the number 4, men.com. There you will find free articles. You will find some excellent forums and the ability to hire the individual one-on-one coaching services of Dr. Tara Palmatier. If you're interested in men's issues in general, which may or may not include gaming, depending on what's going on at the moment, please check out avoiceformen.com. We are not you're not a bunch of misogynistic, neckbeardy losers, and neither are we. Come read us. Maybe you'll find something interesting there. Peace out, everybody. See you next week.
Bye-bye.